In the last screencast, we laid the groundwork for a web application capable of storing and managing events. We defined an event model and outlined a controller to create, show, modify, and delete events. In this screencast, we'll look at how we might implement each of these controller actions. In order to add events to our app, we'll need a form to enter the title and date of each event. Our event form template is actually very simple since it acts as a shell for two partials, one that shows validation errors and another that renders a specific version of the event form, depending on whether the event is being created or updated. The errors that we pass to the template can be used to highlight fields in our form partials that contain bad input. The event creation form uses a post method for the form action, as expected, but the update form uses a post method too. In the previous screencast, we configured our app to use the more RESTful put method for updates. To use put and delete HTTP verbs, we need to do two things. First, we need to add the method override middleware after the URL encoded middleware. Then, to set the desired method, we leave the form action as post and add a hidden input named _method to the form. To see how the event gets created, let's look at the create event action of our controller. The action that we perform depends on the HTTP method. If the method is get, we call a helper function that simply renders the form. If it's post, we pass the request body to a different helper that will process the submitted data. Since our update form passes an event ID as a request parameter, our save event helper function looks for that value to determine which action to take. If no ID is detected, then we create a new event using the model that we defined in the last screencast. If an ID is found, then we attempt to find a matching document by calling the Mongoose method findById. This will return the result, which we can then modify and save. Mongoose's update method can do this in one step, but unfortunately that approach does not trigger validation. Whether creating or modifying an event, we can detect validation errors and use them to display feedback when we re-render the form. If we try to submit an invalid date, we'll see the error in our log. We can identify the offending field by searching for a matching path in the errors object. If we successfully create an event, we can verify that it gets added to the event list. The controller action to list events calls the Mongoose find method to get a result of all the documents in the collection. We pass this collection to the events template that generates links for each event. Each URL will pass the event's unique identifier as a request parameter. For the event link and the event's update link, we'll use this ID to query for a matching record. If there is no match, we'll call the next method to pass the request onto the error handler middleware. Notice that we don't even need to run a Mongoose query if the ID doesn't match a regular expression for a valid MongoDB object ID value. For our controller's delete action, we use the remove method to take the matching event out of the collection. Again, destroying an event would ideally be done by submitting a form using the delete HTTP method. In this screencast, we built out most of the functionality for our event RSVP application. With Mongoose, creating a new event in our database is as straightforward as instantiating an object. Mongoose also makes it easy to query a collection for matching documents and either update the result or remove it from the database. In the next screencast, we'll explore how to add subdocuments to our event model to track RSVP responses.